training camp for the Saskatchewan Roughrider continues. There, like I said, if it comes down to it, that's the toughest tag team duo in the Canadian Football League there. Day number 2 with pads, gentlemen. And how were things this morning at Griffith Stadium?
Well, I'm going to get Luke going right away because you had the opportunity to get right down and see what was going on. And I'll ask you the question first that was posed to me from the stands. Second time in 3 days that the team was wearing pads. How many padded practices can you have over the span of training camp?
I thought it was 4 to 6. It was between 4 to 6 when I last checked. You got to remember that you're talking to a guy that was in pads almost every day in camp. In like the early 2010s, it started trailing off to where you might have been in practice or pads like 70% of the time, but it's significantly trailed off. So I was happy to see them in pads. One thing that you could tell is guys were feeling it, right? Feeling the bumps and bruises. And these are sort of the dog days of camp, right? When you just get tired of going against the same person every single rep, when you look up and the exhibition game's not for another week or so. So you just got to battle through. So today was a really good sort of physical and mental test. And I thought that the coaches really facilitated the needed energy level by creating that compete period right off the bat.
Anybody standing out at camp? There's the familiar names everybody wants to know about, Jake Mayer or whatever, and we've seen, like you talked about the other day, Joe Robustelli making all sorts of catches. Who are some of the unknowns that maybe popped today, or some people that maybe you had your eye on that haven't really done anything yet?
Well, I don't know that haven't done anything. Aaron Patrick, defensive lineman, of course, played with the Denver Broncos, is here in camp. He's been looking very athletic, in my opinion, as well. We've talked about him a number of times. Antoine Brooks Jr., of course, spent last year on the practice roster. I think he stood out defensively. On the offensive side, Luke and I are going to continue to debate about the running backs throughout the course of this training camp. But right off the hop, those are the ones. The other one that coach singled out today was Daniel Jones on the offensive line. Of course, he's been here a year now. He came into camp late last year, so was kind of behind the 8 ball, but looking athletic, and a lot of people are liking what they see from him.
65 or
yeah. So, is that what I said?
Daniel Johnson.
Daniel Johnson, yes. Yeah.
So I've actually noticed Daniel Johnson too, and what sticks about Daniel Johnson is obviously his size. I think today, in terms of our running back debate, we saw Trevor Penix and we know Mari Anderson have had great camps, but today was the first day with the pads on that they were actually asked to block one-on-one. Yes. I thought both of them looked the part. I think that neither one of them shied away from the contact. As a matter of fact, it was in that competitive drill where the whole team was watching when they were doing it, and both of them held their own. So I think that battle continues on. I really like some of the things that I'm seeing from Ali Saad now. I kind of zoomed in on him today, and again, he's an athletic guy, but for any defensive, offensive lineman, right, you're going to have to wait till that exhibition game and maybe the green and white game. So, but there's, again, then you've got your guys that have always stood out, your Roland Milligans, your Marcus Sales, Dante Myers, again, was out there catching balls and touchdowns. So I like the fact that you've got some new guys in the mix, but also you have your vets that aren't taking time off, right? Like if this were 2021-22, I'm guaranteeing you we would have seen a couple vets sitting on the sidelines on vet days, and it was going to be, and the coaches were going to be like, oh yeah, we need to rest our vet guys. I like the fact that these guys are out there competing their tails off.
It's interesting you say that, Luke, and my thought is very, very similar, but it's great to hear that the vets are being not only the leaders, but that they're catching your eye in camp. Right? It's nice to hear about the Brooks Jr., who's showing off all of a sudden and right, making some amazing plays, but that the vets are doing that. That means they came ready to play and they know it's a special year. What are we seeing out of the quarterback group behind Trevor Harris?
Well, the quarterback group behind Trevor Harris all 3 quarterbacks behind Trevor Harris that we're looking at. So Jake Mayer, he was really good today, I thought. Mm-hmm. I think that Jack Cohn is being a lot more competitive than people, were probably ready for. And that's not a bad thing. I just think that with the addition of Mayer and Tommy Stevens in the offseason, I think that nobody really sort of looked at Cohn as a guy was going to push. But I'll tell you what, he's been really good, and I think that he's got a lot of confidence going into his second year. You got to remember his advantage over Mayer and Stevens is the fact that he knows this playbook inside out, right, from his experiences last year. So he's been really competitive. It's been nice to see. Tommy Stevens, he's been up and down. I think that, again, he's such a massive threat in the third down game. We did talk about, though, do you source that out to a fullback, the third down, third and one possessions, second and one possessions, right? Do you see teams now going to their bigger running backs or to get that done? And does that clear some space in the quarterback room to keep a guy like Cone, also Mayer, and obviously Trevor Harris, right? So I think they've got some options there for sure.
And maybe just to quote Sean Payton from the Denver Broncos, you remember he had a little dust up with Russell Wilson, if you will. His quote at the time was, "Make me cut you, force me to cut you." Right? So don't cut yourself. And I would submit that all three quarterbacks or all four quarterbacks have made a statement that you're going to have to cut me because I'm not going to make the mistake for me to cut myself.
Right.
Great
All right. No, that is make me cut you. Make me cut you. Dave had a chance to catch up with Coach Mace earlier today after practice, and here's what Coach had to say.
Well, Coach, back to the pads today. What did you see?
I thought we started pretty quick. We went straight to our little showcase there, some one-on-one call-outs. That third day of pads, usually, guys are dragging a little bit, as they should, because they put it all out there the first 2 days. But, we got the juices flowing early, and I thought it carried through the rest of practice.
You put Micah Johnson back on the offensive line. What the heck?
Yeah, he was begging to do the showcase and get a good rep, so I called him out there first, get his juices flowing, and then I said O-line. Hey, the more you can do, and he won the rep. So, I thought it was a fun little way to end that. So, no, it was just all in fun.
Can you take me inside your running back room right now? There's some very talented athletes.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, all of them have had good careers. They all got, enough speed to get past the second level, and, a big thing for us is, can you protect the quarterback? And that's something we talked about to Mario and Penix, the young guys. We have a standard from that standpoint, and to have Andrew obviously coaching that up, and to follow AJ's lead, they're in a good position. So they've been progressively getting better through camp, and they had a hell of a day, truthfully, in the showcase with their blitz pickup stuff as well. So pleased with how they're trending.
Is that what sets a running back apart, or maybe the biggest adjustment from the American game to coming up north?
Maybe. I've never coached down there, so I can't speak too much to that. But you're going to get a ton of elusive backs, no doubt. But we throw the ball a lot in this league, and we got to keep our quarterback upright. So to have a sixth protector is crucial for us.
Last one for me. I know I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but there's a lot of excitement around Northern Saskatchewan for Saturday and Green and White Day. What will fans see from your team?
I think just a lot of energy, a lot of juice, something to cheer about. If they haven't had a chance to come out and catch practice, there's been a lot of big plays happening out this way. So I think just a chance for our fan base to get closer to the team and see them in live action and see how we're going.
That's Coach Mace, Saskatchewan Roughrider Training Camp report, brought to you by Red Zone Sports Bar behind the Saskatoon Travel Lodge. If there's something you would like to know about camp specifically, text us your questions. Prairie Land Rentals text line 306-936-6262. We're going to take a break. When we come back, the training camp discussion continues next. Training camp continues in Saskatoon, and Dave and Luc are at the Red Zone Sports Bar behind the Saskatoon Travel Lodge. And with the pads on again today, and I know that when you guys broke the news, and this is what has me worried. Sean McEwen, free agent signing, center, sitting around with crutches. Dave, crutches again, back on the field. Was there a miracle recovery, or what's the McEwen update?
I think everybody was looking for the miracle water. The only unfortunate part is that soccer seems to dominate that and have exclusive rights to it, because we weren't able to find it last year with all those offensive linemen that went down. The official word on Sean McEwen is that he's still under evaluation. They want to get more eyes on it. He's going for imaging and testing, from what I understand today, to see where it's at. I don't know what the level of concern is. I can tell you that Zach Fry did again take those reps at center that Sean McEwen would have normally. So I would submit that, again, if it's taking this long to diagnose it, that's maybe a problem. But then again, again, I'm not a medical professional. I just play one on the radio.
Dave, we have free healthcare in this country. Have you not been told?
You can be a doctor if you want to be. Just put your heart into it. Just try, Dave. Try.
Just wander across the street with McEwen into University Hospital. Maybe steal some scrubs off the laundry cart and just fake it till you make it, and get yourself in there to be like, oh no, this is the MRI. Did you not get the call? And then just pretend like you're really mad that someone all of a sudden the orders didn't come through. Because here's one of the things that I think a lot of us Rider fans have, like, we've seen this movie before. And I know it didn't happen in training camp last year, but when Jamarcus Hardrick went down, big free agent signing, played so well for the Bombers so many years, was relatively healthy. And then we get these prized guys coming in. And it's not like that there won't be somebody next man up. But, all right, so was that Logan Ferland taking snaps then, or who else was in at center?
No, it was definitely Zach Fry today. Philippe Gagnon had taken some alternating reps with him yesterday, but today it was Zach Fry. And maybe just a point of clarification, like, nobody wants the diagnosis more than of course Sean McEwen or the Saskatchewan Roughriders and the medical team, right? They're going to go ahead and make the best decision with the amount of information that's at hand. And I think that, while the sky might be falling, right, and Chicken Little is running everywhere, we also can take it that, okay, listen, they're going to go ahead and diagnose it. And if it's not as bad as they think, then they can go with one course, or maybe if it's, again, they're just determining the right way to go, right?
Dave, I got a question around that. Who else is in the tub? And you can't make the club in the tub, but who else is banged up or not able to participate?
Well, Seth Hundeby hasn't been able to go the last few days. Of course, he was the fourth round pick of the Saskatchewan Roughriders. But again, he's returning to school next year. So again, you give him a bit of a pass. Also, Dalton Urban, the Saskatoon Hilltop player, he hasn't been out a fair bit. Sean Bain Jr., I had a conversation with him today, and he tells me he feels great, which is good news because you hope for a speedy recovery, because the CFL essentially changed a rule for him here today, as a matter of fact, as they announced it. So those are the primary ones right now. Like I say, Sean McEwen has been dinged up and nicked up a little bit, but for the most part, it's been a very healthy camp, which is a great thing when you consider the season we're coming off of.
Do you think that's an indication of, I don't want to call it the maturity of Corey Mace, but the more experience as a head coach to design the practices, take maybe some of the stress off them?
I think it's the been there, done that factor. He knows what it's been like to be a player and what they need to do to get ready. And so he not only is, in my eyes, not only is he saying, here's what we need to do to get ready as an organization, he's also listening to the athletes tell him what they need to do to be prepared and ready to go. For example, tomorrow, they just announced about 15 minutes ago that they are going to go ahead and cut tomorrow's workout time short. They're going to have more of a walkthrough day and more of a learning day, because then on Saturday, of course, they're holding the scrimmage over at Saskatoon Minor Football Field. So again, I think that's just part of listening to the athletes, understanding where they need to be. That's the maturation of him as a coach, but it's also him understanding what those athletes need.
Nice.
So the other day at practice, there was the dust up, quarterbacks were hit, punches thrown, players taken off, and all of that. Has it calmed down, but with the intensity level still being where it needs to be for guys competing with jobs?
Calm down isn't the word that I would use. Is there's still a lot of intensity. There's still a lot of emotion, but it's much more. And controlled sounds bad. Like, I hope that doesn't sound like a negative word, controlled. But the idea is that it's happening between the whistles. You get out there, you compete in your rep, and then it's done, right? You got to stay within the rules. You can't be taking the 25-yard penalties, which are going to be dished out, it looks to me, like candy this year in the Canadian Football League. So, again, you got to mind your P's and Q's, and that's what they have done. They've stayed intense, they've stayed focused, they've stayed emotional, but they've done it all between whistles, and they've done it all within the constraints of what the drill is.
It's nice to point out that on May 15th, we have our first criticism of officiating without actually having had a snap yet.
Well, no, what happened today is the Canadian Football League, if folks have missed it, the Canadian Football League... The Canadian Football League, they announced changes to the rules for this upcoming season, and one of them is player safety. There's a second-degree pass or roughing the passer penalty that is now available, and it applies down low, up high, and it can be met with an immediate ejection. You see it on the screen if you're following us on YouTube today. And again, the penalty has changed and it's being enforced differently as well. So instead of a half the distance to the goal penalty, they're going to put the ball on the 1 yard line. They're not going to be afraid to penalize players and toss them out if they're not playing well. And I alluded to Sean Bain Jr., right? He took that nasty low hit when he was going over the middle against Ottawa, right? And at the time, I don't want to say it's legal because I don't think it was ever legal, but there wasn't strictly a penalty for it. Now receivers that are prone and are hit down low are also protected just as they are if they go up high. So it makes the defender's job easier, but it also makes the game safer.
Nice.
Okay, so on the ineligible receivers, leave that up on the screen for a sec. This is the one I get the first one. Once an eligible receiver touches a pass, all players on both teams become eligible to catch the pass. Wasn't that always the rule, or what is the change there?
Now, I'm trying to read into that, and I believe that just, I don't want to say it makes offensive linemen eligible to catch the ball, but if it hits a receiver, it now becomes a live ball, right? So like officiating football, and again, I've got some great friends that officiate football, and without them, we are not playing the game. And the one thing that they tell me is that when it comes to the rules, unlike any other sport, there can be two different rules that apply in two different ways on the exact same play, depending on what has happened, whether it's a turnover and who can and who can't block and where you can block them and how you can block them. So again, this to me is just a clarification for a rule for an official that, say, for example, it hits a receiver and offensive lineman grabs it, then I believe they become eligible and can catch it. But that's just my belief. Again, I need somebody way smarter than me to decipher the rule.
Again, May 15th, our first conversation about officiating. Love it. Yeah.
It's funny if Sharky and I say it, but that's the play-by-play guy, Dave, who just said, I have friends that officiate. I'm like, all right. On that D line, who's been the most disruptive? Because there's nothing better than when you're at a practice or at camp, watching some D lineman just blow up a play, clipboards go flying, offensive coaches are swearing, they do the turnaround, the visor is being pulled off, Sean Payton style, a la Sean Payton or whatever, because somebody just blew up the play. Who's dynamite so far this year on that D line for the Riders?
You know what? It's hilarious because the fans here are awesome and they've been coming out in droves. Today was a really cold day today, so the fans weren't as big. But as I was heading out to the field today, someone asked me if I thought Micah Johnson was washed up because he was older. And for my money, for my eyes, this isn't Dave saying it, for my eyes, Micah Johnson's that stick of dynamite. He has been sensational. One-on-one drills. He's battling hard. He's all over the place. He is preparing himself for another professional football season like he knows how to do. And he is leading the way on that defensive line. So it was funny because the fan took it back after the one-on-one session and the showdown compete session during the practice today because, oh, yeah, he's all right. And as you heard Coach Mays say, he even put him in on the offensive line side of those showdown reps, which was pretty funny.
I think it'd be interesting for that fan to meet Micah and ask him that question directly. I think that would be worth everybody's time.
Exactly.
This afternoon. Yeah.
I put that on an Instagram reel, Curtis, and stick that on the internet because just to have the guts to be like, hey, Micah Johnson, I think you're washed up.
Yeah.
Do you have a comment?
Yeah.
No, but
When I
remember,
see him on
they
TV,
asked me. I didn't say it.
I know.
They asked me.
That was the safe way to ask it, was to ask you instead of implying it otherwise.
Oh, true.
Yes.
True.
Yeah.
Because even watching Micah Johnson from my coach on TV, and we're a million miles away, he's still kind of is an intimidating man with the cameras on. And I'm not necessarily close to him at all. Just to be like, if there's one guy out of the whole squad that you'd be like, no, that you just stay away from him. Micah Johnson does whatever Micah Johnson wants.
Can I tell you a quick Micah Johnson story from the offseason that I thought was sensational? So, again, the Roughriders have so many great projects that they do with the foundation. And so they go and they visit schools, right? So they do a Win with Wellness campaign, which is all about mental health, which I know does some great work. But then they also do the reading campaign. And at one school, I was fortunate enough to go and attend. And so, of course, these players are absolutely larger than life when they walk into a room, right? So you got big Micah Johnson hanging around with 6 and 7 year olds. So after the presentation is done, there's a group of boys just off to the left. And so the one guy gets the gets the courage up to go and ask Micah to see if he'll sign his book. So Micah signs it, and the little guy goes running back, and he says, "Wow, he's actually nice." And I'm like, he probably gets that all the time, right?
Well,
He's an intimidating
to a
looking
little
guy.
Yeah, he is.
Oh, absolutely, right?
Yeah.
He's actually
Very.
nice.
Reminds me of a young Luc Mullinder.
Yeah, young Luc Mullinder had to learn to be nice. I think that I always tell people that I grew up a lot here in Saskatchewan, and I don't mean from like young to my age now. I meant like my mentality. You know what I mean? Like I feel like I'm a decent human being because of my time in Saskatchewan, which is a good thing.
You are, Luke. Don't be so hard.
Thanks, Sharky.
Yeah.
Well, look, according to the show the other day, you need to follow through on some of those pool party invites and actually have the pool party happen. That will probably raise that status a little higher. Maybe invite him over this weekend, Luke, because hey, you're not going to be home and the weather's going to suck. It's going to be like raining and 5 degrees. So if people do decide to show, that's on them, not on you. At least you offered, right?
Yeah, the pool got open today.
Oh,
yeah. We had the crew over there today, but it, like I said, yeah, like you alluded to, Maz. I don't think it's not going to get swam in for at least a week or so.
It's perfect time. All right, guys, we're going to take a break. When we come back after 4 o'clock, I have a theory because all of this talk of the Riders just automatically being in the Grey Cup game, as someone who's been a part of a Rider Nation for a long time, we're a century and some old with 4 championships, I get a little nervous. It's all about big brother, little brother. It's a term, Luke, you used before when you're talking about college football, the big brother, little brother thing. We'll get into that after 4 o'clock, and we'll hear from some of the other players, and we'll dive more into this whole running back debate because besides A.J. Ouellette, there's going to be some fresh faces on the roster, and we're going to get a chance to meet them. All right, let's, through the magic of technology, let's reconnect with the Red Zone Sports Bar in Saskatoon behind the Travel Lodge. Saskatchewan Training Camp continues. Dave Thomas, Luc Mullinder, and the pads were back on again today. And one of the things, and I'd mentioned this last hour, and Luke, I'm going to use a term. I think you were using this when you were talking about Michigan State, big brother and little brother, in a conversation we had last year. Maybe you don't remember, but I did. So there's a lot of people anointing the Saskatchewan Roughriders automatically to be in the Grey Cup this year, which really worries me. Can we just fly under the radar? And when we get there, we get there. But now there's these expectations, and there should be. They got a good team. They got returning a lot of things. But to me, it all boils down to the Banjo Bowl, where little brother, the Saskatchewan Roughriders, and I don't care what their records are between the two teams, the Bombers and the Riders, if the Saskatchewan Roughriders can go into Winnipeg and win that Banjo Bowl and avenge the demons that are the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, that is their kryptonite over the past 5 to 7 years. You go in there and do that, I am 100% all in. But if you cannot do that, if you cannot go there and win, and you haven't in a long time, careful. Because if you have to play them in the playoffs, that's that one team you don't want to play. Am I alone in this? That we will forever be little brother until we go in there to their stadium and actually prove who we are.
Well, how come that doesn't apply to them coming to our stadium the week before? We beat the snot out of them in every Labor Day battle, right? And then we go in there, and you're right. We've struggled to win the other battle, but I mean, in the last couple of years, we've won the same amount of Grey Cups as the Winnipeg Blue Bombers too. You know what I mean? So I think that the and again, you're talking to a guy who predicted the Riders would be in the Grey Cup in February. But I think that what you're seeing is a little bit of mix of what's on paper, which looks really impressive, and also a little bit of context around, hey, keep in mind that this team was in the West Final last year, and they are one of the only teams that brought back their core guys, and they are one of the only teams, actually they're the only team in the West that didn't go through a major change in their football ops structure or their GM spot, right? So there are a lot of things that kind of point towards, hey, this team can make the next step. And I think that it's just for a team that was in the West Final last year, the next step is organically the Grey Cup. I don't think that it's one of those deals where everybody's like, oh, this team's going to win the Grey Cup just because they got their green goggles on. Like, realistically, all the things are in place here to have success. So you got to stay healthy, and then you got to keep rolling. But listen, you're talking to somebody that I will never subscribe to being little brother to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers in any way, shape, or form, right?
Or to Michigan.
So yeah, or to the school down the street, right? I think that definitely in the CFL. If it would be different, I think if they always won the Labor Day game and then they also won the Banjo Bowl, but you know they're the only ones who also care about the Banjo Bowl too, right?
We also play them in Winnipeg, week 20, October 17th. So I might say that game might be more important because it's the second last game of the season. Records are going to matter. So that game might end up being more
standings will matter, records will matter, you know, and then the whoever wins says, okay, well, you know, you got to see us in a couple of weeks, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, I think that the expectation and the people that are sort of clamoring onto the riders in the Grey Cup bandwagon, I think that there's more there than just the green goggles. You know what I mean, Maz?
100%. Like there's some meat on those bones. Like we can back it up because they said the season we did have those building blocks. It's just an uncomfortable spot. I mean, we've been around for so long.
Yeah.
And somebody brought it up the other day, a fan of another team talking about how do you celebrate the 4? When you divide all the years into the 4, like what is that coming to these days? Are we 20 years or 30 years between champ? I'm like, all right, I get it.
Well,
I get it.
I always tend to just sort of take the other angle and ask those people that are talking that trash how many CFL games they played in, right? And how many you know, what does their experience look like? What college games have you played in? What bowl championships do you have? You know what I mean? So I think that you got to keep that in context. I think that the other thing too is I'm going to be honest, guys, and I don't want, and listen, I am now completely 100% in the media, right? Like I have no skin in the game in terms of the locker room. I am not there at practice. When we finally got over the fact that we made the most childish error in the history of sports in 2009, you want to know what we didn't shy away from? Going back in 2010. Like at some point, you don't want to shy away from the expectation. At some point, you buy into it. You say, you know what? We are the favorites. And you know what? Every single time there's 9 games where we play in front of Mosaic Stadium, we're going to be the favorites in every one of those 9 games. And we're going to punch you in the mouth. Oh, and by the way, there's 9 games on the schedule where we're going to go into someone else's stadium. And you know what we're going to do there? We're going to punch you in your mouth there too. You know, I think that at some point, this organization needs to stop focusing on the fact, because that's easy to do. Yeah, you know, 100 and something year history, you only have 4 Grey Cups, blah, blah, blah. You know, Mike McCullough is responsible for 50% of them.
Yeah.
Right? Richie's responsible for 75% of them. Right? Eventually, you got to walk away from that and just be a team that doesn't give anything. And we're going to punch you in your mouth, period. And and that's why I like the expectation that Mace is setting in training camp. You know, hey, you want to jump offside? You run. Oh, you want to start a fight? Do you? Well, your film's not good enough, so guess what? We're going to send you home, right? Like, I really, at some point, want to see a Saskatchewan Roughrider club that has some swag coming into a game, you know? And I think that we need to avoid the whole, oh, guys, we got to hope to fly under the radar. We got to, you know what I mean? Man, forget that. Let's go take the West.
I'm ready.
Right? Let's go put a stranglehold on the Western Conference. Let's leave no doubt. Why don't we be the team that 1 month left of the season? Now we're on the bye week. There's 3 games left. You know what? We don't even care about them because that's how far ahead we are than the rest of the guys.
I 100% agree with you. That's my point of you go into Winnipeg on that Banjo Bowl, and who cares what the record's been? And it hasn't been great over the past however long the fake trophy's been around. And you go in there and you punch them in the mouth and be like, it doesn't matter. We'll beat you anywhere. But that's what I'm saying. That's my statement game. You go in there and do that, and then it's like, because that is the one team. Everybody's got their one. That's our one team where you go in there and do that. And I think for a lot of us, it'll be like, nothing's stopping us now.
I think Winnipeg's old.
Yeah, you know what? Winnipeg's Yeah, Winnipeg's locker room smells like DMSO and Tylenol threes, but that's okay. I mean, listen, I think that I've been in that situation. When I played, Calgary was that team, right?
Yeah.
And I remember in 2010, like they had the All-Star team was all Calgary Stampeders. Do you remember that, Dave?
I remember that, absolutely, yeah.
And guess what we did when we walked in that building in their home game in the West Final in 2010? We smacked them in the mouth and went home with the win, right? Like let's go start having some swag around that stuff. You know what I mean? Right? Yeah. Like so let's go smack Winnipeg in the mouth. And I think that the other problem is if you actually make it about one team, that's the dangerous piece. Right? You just got to I think that you just have to treat every single team this year as your potential victim. No, I don't care what the colors look like. Let's just go smack them in the mouth. Let's go get a win. You know what I mean? Anyways, that's just my opinion. Right?
It's awesome. It's awesome, Luke.
It's my take. Right? Just my take.
I'm behind you 100%.
At no point in 2010 were we like, oh, guys, I don't know. We're being picked as the favorite. We better slow down, or we better quiet down. Better shut out the media from practice. At no point were we like that, right? We were like, let's watch some film. Let's go and compete, man. That's what I'd like to see.
Nice.
Sorry, I know I'm rambling. Welcome to my TED Talk.
Yeah, loving it. Loving every minute of it.
Besides AJ Ouellette, the running back situation is new this year. And because of the release of Kalen LeBourne the other day, it's really, really new. So, Dave, who besides AJ is in this backfield at the moment competing for jobs?
Mario Anderson and Trent Penix are the two guys that have really taken the brunt of the reps. And that's kind of what I'm building my opinion on, is the number of reps each guy gets. Mario Anderson, I thought, was sensational in the rookie camp. Trent Penix then came on late in rookie camp and kind of started out real quick in main camp. They've gone back and forth, and Luke and I have been talking in positive terms about both of them and what each of them brings. Today they were forced to block, and I shouldn't say forced to block, but they had to bring out their physicality with pads on and prove that they could do it and show that they were the guy that could go ahead and be relied upon to make the big block and the right read when it was required. And Luke and I, we've been going back and forth. They're both very, very talented athletes.
Well, it was funny because today, again, I love the compete practice today. So right away, like it was early on in practice, Coach Mace has 4 sort of scenarios that they did in front of the entire team. The first one was like, hey, get off the punt cover block. The second was one-on-one pass rush, right? And the linebackers and running backs were up first. And I remember this because me and Dave, we were talking junk because Dave was like, oh, yeah, my guy this, and I'm a Penix guy. So I remember the first rep was actually Mario Anderson.
Yes, it was.
And he blocked his tail off. He approached it physically, and I was like, oh, but I actually thought that it was Trent Penix. So I got all excited. I'm like, yeah, baby, nice block. Yeah, and then I realized it was actually Dave's guy. And I'm like, oh man. So I had to wait till my guy stepped up, Trent Penix. And then he stuck his nose in there. So again, I think that these two guys, do you find potentially a roster spot for them? And then the practice roster spot for another guy? Obviously, that would be entirely indicative on what so-and-so's agent or representation thought was the best decision. Yeah. But also, what if they continue to play really well? Do we look at potential returnability as the deciding factor onto who gets sort of the roster spot versus the practice roster spot, right? I think it's a great problem to have. And when AJ Ouellette has touched the ball, he's clearly on a little bit. I don't know if he's on a pitch count or it's just like they're taking it slow. Yeah. But every time he's touched the ball, he's looked good too. So it's a great conversation to have.
Is Mario Alford back on the return side?
Yes, he is.
Yes,
yep. He's been returning a lot of balls. He hasn't been running many routes, though.
Yeah, no, he's only ran a couple routes. Yeah, exactly. He's not. But again, I think that right now we're at a point, right, guys, where we know what Mario Alford is to the roster, right? Like it's sort of the conversation around suspending the Jordan Herdman Reed brothers, right? Like, you know exactly what you're going to get out of Jordan Herdman Reed, the brothers. You're going to get great special teams play, and you're going to get a guy that can play 2 to 10 reps in the crunch of a game, right? So do you need to evaluate that in camp? Probably not, right?
No.
So I think that Mario Alfred's the same way. Is you know what you've got in Mario Alfred. He's a returner, but he can also catch the ball. But at the end of the day, we don't really figure him into the offense, right? Because the last 2 years we've kind of been hoping that Mario Alfred was going to have an impact on the offense, and Dave and I and the rest of you guys, we'd all get excited when we were happy to report that Mario Alfred looks like he has a package in practice, and it never comes to fruition, right? So, yeah, I just think it may be one of those deals where it's like, hey, you look at the less expensive guys like Penix and Mario Anderson, and you do the weighing of the scale, right? Like, hey, well, like what do we want to do here when seemingly the on-field production looks like it can be the same?
We go to Dave Thomas and Luc Mullinder in Saskatoon. Red Zone Sports Bar. Gents, coach already shortened practice tomorrow, and then green and white day on Saturday. A little rundown of what's happening, and if you're a fan, what can we expect for Saturday?
Well, the gates will open at 1 o'clock. Saskatoon Minor Football Field. So that's the Gordie Howe Sports Complex just off Avenue P South in Regina, Saskatoon. I do know where I am. Trust me. So gates open at 1 o'clock. Then there will be the State of the Nation address. That's when CEO Craig Reynolds, Vice President of Football Operations and General Manager Jeremy O'Day, and Head Coach Corey Mace will be in front of Rider Nation. They'll take questions. We'll have a good Q&A session. And then right after that, they're going to bring them out. That's where the players will come out. They'll take part in a scrimmage. Then they're going to stick around, sign some autographs, and then it's going to be just a heck of a day for the entire family. And I say that all, and it does sound very leisurely, perhaps the way that I put it, but I think there's some business to be taken care of, Luke.
Well, when you have an exhibition game 2 weeks from the start of training camp, you need to take advantage of all the opportunities you get to be competitive. So I like Saturday's game or event, for 2 reasons. A, it gives you a chance to sort of practice the logistics around game day, right? Like, hey, we're going to actually time this up to our warm-up, match our warm-up pace and things like that, right? And then I wouldn't be surprised to see these guys go a little bit of practice, but more importantly, work some real-time situations and get competitive, because again, this team is incredibly deep, as J.O. and Coach Mace have said it at a number of times. But more importantly, if it's a deep team, you need all the evaluation film you can get. So take advantage of Saturday as a bit of a mock game, right? Put them in situations that are competitive, and then obviously hang out with some fans, because that's also part of it, right? When you're in Rider Nation, it's always good to get out into the community and rub shoulders with people that really want to support you.
Do they? A question about the scrimmage. Do they do it as a game simulation, if you will? Do they divide up into kind of a green and white scenario, or do they just put different players in different spots? And do they make it 2nd and 3 all the time, or make it 2nd and 1 or 3rd and 1? Do they set up all possible opportunities in a game?
What they did last year was offense versus defense, right? So green versus white. And then again, it was run up and down the field a little bit. So there was some special teams play as well that was live. There was some other situations that, of course, for player safety that were simulated a little bit. But yeah, it was very much a game situation and an opportunity to show what you got.
Love it.
All right. We're going to let you guys get out of here. But before you do, and I will bring this up tomorrow, during the Q&A, a few weeks ago, I floated what I thought was a brilliant idea. Since everybody's coming up with gimmicks in the CFL, Banjo Bowl being the oldest of them, and now the Stampede Bowl. I do love Bret Michaels and Poison. I mean, Nothing But a Good Time is one of the best songs ever made. The Pilsner like Cup. It doesn't matter. No, Bret's only like 65. Looks good. That wig, you can't tell. That's not real hair. All right? I floated the idea to Craig Reynolds and then Jeremy O'Day for the Pilsner Cup. That would be our fake trophy game. Where are we at? Are we at a focus group stage? What's the groundswell of support like? Just a status update on the Pilsner Cup.
Who would we play?
Rider signature game. It doesn't matter.
Well, so Maz, I don't want to rain on your parade here, but there hasn't been one whisper of a Pilsner game in any conversations.
That said, though, there haven't been a lack of volunteers willing to try, just so you know.
I think that right now it is grand opening, grand closing, all at the same time.
Pilsner Cup's got legs. This is not dead.
We'll play Molson. We'll play Montreal. The Percival Molson Stadium, Pilsner Cup, Molson beer.
Sure,
the game against Montreal.
I honestly think that concept sounds incredible for like beer pong or a long weekend activity, but
at your pool.
Hey, Luke, as someone who works in an organization with a lot of people, diverse group, what about there's no bad ideas? Okay, this is a giant boardroom meeting. There are no bad ideas, right, Luke? Right, Luke, the boss.
Yeah,
Luke, the executive.
Totally. You're absolutely right. There are no bad ideas, but there are some terrible ones, and that one sounds like it's bordering on it. Man.
Nice job, Luke.
And I think the internet connection is breaking up in Saskatoon for whatever reason. I don't know, like the cable bill, we didn't pay it. We're going to let you guys go. They'll be on the show tomorrow.